When my wife told me she loved me, I believed her, until the night I found her secret bank account and realized every kiss had been part of a bigger lie. The clinking of champagne glasses echoed across the ballroom like the chime of 100 tiny bells. Chandeliers spilled golden light over polished marble floors, casting a glow so soft and flattering that every photograph would look as though it had been lifted from the pages of a wedding magazine. The air smelled faintly of roses, vanilla, and money. My brother, Caleb, stood at the head of the stage, one hand wrapped around the fingers of his new bride, Cassandra, the other lifting a crystal flute toward the crowd. He looked like the kind of man the world wanted to root for, all charm and confidence, and for a moment, even I could have believed the image if I didn't know the truth behind it. Mia leaned in close to me during the toast, her lips almost brushing my ear. There was no smile on her face, no sign of panic, just the soft, precise delivery of 4 words that slid under my skin and set my pulse racing. "We have to leave now." I blinked. "What?" Her gaze never shifted from the stage. Her eyes locked on Caleb and Cassandra, her expression unreadable, but I knew her well enough to recognize that she had seen something I hadn't. "I'll explain in the car," she said. That was it. No hesitation, no further explanation. I had known Mia for 6 years, and I had learned that when she spoke with that measured, unshakable tone, she meant every word. So we slipped out before the cake was cut, before the first dance, before the family photos I was supposed to be in. I could already hear my mother's voice in my head, asking where I had gone, accusing me of making things about myself. But I followed Mia anyway, my mind churning as we walked through the hotel's gilded lobby and into the cool night air. Silence filled the car like smoke as we drove away, heavy and suffocating. The only sounds were the hum of the engine and the occasional hiss of tires against wet pavement. The city lights blurred past in streaks of gold and white. I wanted to speak, to demand an explanation, but something in Mia's posture, the way her hands were folded tightly in her lap, the rigid line of her shoulders, told me to wait. 5 miles later, she finally broke the silence. "You really didn't notice, did you?" I frowned, gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. "Notice what?" She turned her head toward me, her eyes sharp in the dim glow from the dashboard. "The wedding was perfect," she said. "That was the problem." I shook my head, not understanding. Every flower was in place, every guest coordinated. The speeches were rehearsed to perfection. Even the playlist was curated like it had been engineered in a lab. But it wasn't just about a marriage, Nathan. It was a show. A message. I stared at the road, the words sinking in but refusing to form a coherent picture. "A message to who?" "To you," she said, her voice dropping lower. My grip on the wheel tightened further. "Mia, you're not making sense." "It took me hours to realize it, and one sentence from you earlier to confirm it," she said. "That wedding wasn't about love. It was about erasing you." The words hit me harder than I expected. Erasing me. My mind tried to push back against it, to argue, but a dozen moments from the evening began to replay in my head like scenes from a film I hadn't known I was in. Caleb smiling too wide when he saw me. Cassandra avoiding eye contact. The calculated seating arrangements that placed me at the farthest table from the stage. The way certain family members had looked right through me, as if I were a stranger in my own bloodline. Caleb had always been the golden son. Brilliant. Charming. A master at making people believe he was the victim, even when he was holding the knife. I was the quiet one. The fixer. The one who got things done. When our father died, I handled the estate. When our mother got sick, I paid the bills. Caleb, meanwhile, gave speeches and posed for social media, painting himself as the devoted son. He used to call me Plan B, like if he failed, I'd be there to catch him. And for years, I was. Until I met Mia. She saw through him from the first dinner. I remember her leaning toward me that night and saying, "He watches you like a man who thinks your life should have been his." I brushed it off. He was my brother, and I didn't want to see it. But over time, the cracks widened. He flirted with Mia once. Twice. Then laughed it off as a joke. He borrowed $10,000 from me, money he still hadn't paid back. And then came his engagement to Cassandra, a girl I'd dated in college. Briefly. Quietly. Caleb knew. He brought her to Thanksgiving that year. I said nothing. Mia told me that was the first shot. When the wedding invitation arrived in a gold-trimmed box, our names were misspelled. I knew it wasn't a mistake. Inside was a detailed schedule, a seating chart, and a list of approved attire colors. It was less an invitation and more a summons to play my assigned role. But Mia had seen more. "The bridesmaids," she said in the car. "You didn't notice?" I shook my head. "Every one of them looked like me," she said. "Same height. Same build. Same shade of lipstick I wore the night you took me out for the first time. And Cassandra's dress. It was a replica of the one I picked years ago but never wore. That wasn't coincidence, Nathan. That was strategy. That was personal. I felt a heat rise in my chest that had nothing to do with the car's heater. And the vows, she continued. You heard them. I nodded slowly. He said, I finally found someone who sees me for who I am, unlike those who wanted to manage, control, or fix me. She paused. He was talking about you. In his wedding vows. To your ex. In front of your family. I didn't say a word. But something inside me shifted in that moment, like a lever being thrown. Caleb had made this a game. A performance. A public humiliation. And if he wanted a war, I was done playing defense. Revenge, I knew, wasn't about rage. It was about precision. And precision was something I understood better than anyone. Mia didn't speak for the rest of the drive, and I didn't need her to. Her silence was not cold or punishing but calculated, the same way she handled her work in strategic communications. She understood that in moments like this, words could dilute the impact of what had already been said. We both knew the truth now, and it didn't need repetition. When we got home, she went straight to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of wine. I followed her, still replaying every detail of the evening in my mind. She stood at the counter, her back to me, and for a moment I just watched her. The way the kitchen light caught in her hair, the slow, deliberate way she swirled the glass in her hand. She had been my compass from the moment we met, always pointing me toward what was real, what mattered. But tonight, her compass needle wasn't just pointing toward truth. It was pointing toward something else, something darker. What are you thinking? I asked. She turned, her eyes steady on mine. I'm thinking Caleb just declared war. And you don't win a war by walking away. The words hung in the air, as dangerous as they were tempting. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I poured myself a drink and took it to the living room, sinking into the couch. My mind was no longer replaying the wedding like a series of humiliations. It was cataloging them, turning them into pieces on a chessboard. Caleb had always underestimated me. He thought because I didn't crave the spotlight, I didn't know how to move in the shadows. He thought I'd always be the one cleaning up after him. That was his first mistake. His second was forgetting that while he thrived on attention was exactly what could destroy him. Step 1 was obvious: money. Caleb and Cassandra had launched a wedding planning business 3 months ago, selling curated luxury experiences to couples with more money than time. Their investors were high profile, their marketing glossy, their margins razor thin. I knew this because I had put some of my own money into the venture through a shell company Caleb didn't know I controlled. It took 2 days to set the plan in motion. I contacted my broker, explained the situation, and initiated a withdrawal. Perfectly legal, completely within my rights. What Caleb didn't know was that one of his other major investors, a corporate acquaintance of mine who owed me a favor, had agreed to follow my lead. By the end of the week, Caleb's company had lost 60% of its capital. I didn't need to be there to see the fallout. Word travels fast in certain circles. Cassandra was furious. Caleb blamed her. They fought in public, voices raised in restaurants, in parking lots. People noticed. And I made sure a few choice videos found their way onto the right social media accounts. Step 2 was leverage. I still had the emails and the voice note from when Caleb borrowed that 10 grand from me. His promise to repay. His admission of why he needed it, gambling losses he couldn't cover. I packaged everything neatly and sent it to a journalist I knew who specialized in influencer frauds. I didn't even need to embellish. The truth was damning enough. The article dropped on a Tuesday morning. The headline was brutal, the kind that stuck in people's heads. Golden groom or grifter, the real Caleb Cade. My phone lit up all day with messages from family, some angry, some shocked. My mother called twice. I didn't answer. Step 3 was the final blow, though I hadn't decided when to deliver it until the opportunity presented itself. Months ago, Caleb had asked me to fix an old phone of his, claiming it had important contacts on it. In the process, I'd found messages between him and Cassandra's best friend. Messages that made it clear they'd slept together a month before the wedding. I'd kept the evidence, unsure of whether I'd ever use it. Now I knew I would. I sent the screenshots to Cassandra anonymously. She left him that night. 2 weeks later, Caleb showed up at my apartment. He looked nothing like the man from the wedding stage. His hair was unkempt, his suit wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. He didn't knock so much as pound on the door until I opened it. "You did this," he hissed, his voice raw. I stood in the doorway, blocking his way in. "Did what?" You orchestrated all of it, he said. His hands were trembling. The money, the article, Cassandra, all of it. I met his gaze and didn't blink. You made it a show, I said. I just gave it an ending. He stepped forward, his shoulders squared like he might swing at me. Mia appeared behind me, her presence calm but charged. I'd rethink that, she said to him, her tone low and precise. You're not the victim here. For a moment, Caleb just stared at her, his jaw working, his chest rising and falling like he was trying to swallow a dozen different responses. Then he stepped back. No threats. No promises. Just silence. And then he was gone. That was 6 months ago. His business was finished. Cassandra was engaged again, to someone else. Caleb moved to another city. No one in the family sent me updates, and I didn't ask. But even as life began to settle, as Mia and I found ourselves walking together on quiet Sunday mornings, laughing more easily than before, I couldn't shake the memory of that wedding. The lights. The applause. The vows. And the whisper that had set everything in motion. We have to leave now. The best advice I'd ever followed. Or so I thought. Because 3 weeks later, a letter arrived in my mailbox with no return address. Inside was a single photograph, a grainy black and white shot of me and Mia leaving the wedding that night, taken from somewhere high above the ballroom entrance. On the back, in block letters, it read, "You missed something." I stared at the photograph for a long time, the grainy edges blurring as my grip on it tightened. It wasn't just the fact that someone had been watching us. It was the precision of it. The angle suggested a vantage point from one of the upper floors of the hotel, possibly from a private suite. The timing was perfect. Mia and I stepping out into the night, my head slightly turned toward her, the tension in my shoulders obvious. The words on the back were printed in block capitals, as though to strip them of personality. You missed something. It wasn't a threat, at least not overtly. It was an accusation. A statement meant to worm its way into my mind and stay there. And it did. Mia came into the kitchen and saw me holding it. Her eyes narrowed. What is that? I handed it to her without a word. She studied the image, then turned it over. I watched her expression shift, not fear exactly, but focus, the kind she reserved for problems she was determined to solve. Someone knew exactly where we were that night, she said. And they knew why we left. I took the photo back and laid it on the counter. It could be Caleb, I said. She shook her head. If it were Caleb, he wouldn't be subtle. He'd want you to know it was him. This is different. Different. That word hung in the air like smoke. I tried to brush it off for the rest of the evening, but the image kept creeping back into my thoughts. It was like a loose thread on a sweater. Pull on it and everything might unravel. 2 days later, I got my answer to who had sent it, or at least the next clue. A small envelope arrived at my office. No return address again. Inside was a flash drive. I plugged it into my computer, half expecting a virus. Instead, a single video file appeared. I clicked it open. The footage was shaky, as though recorded on a phone. The perspective was from the back of the ballroom at Caleb's wedding. It showed the moment Mia leaned in to whisper to me. But the audio was wrong. The noise of the crowd was muffled, and instead, another voice spoke over it, low and male, almost a whisper in itself. She's not telling you everything, Nathan. I froze. The clip ended abruptly. I replayed it 3 times, searching for distortions, background noise, anything that would tell me more. The voice was unfamiliar. Calm. Controlled. When Mia got home that night, I showed her. She stood behind me, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder as she watched. When the clip ended, she didn't say anything right away. Do you recognize the voice? I asked. She shook her head. No. But whoever it is, they were there. Close enough to record that. I leaned back in my chair, my mind racing. What do you think they mean? Not telling me everything. Her gaze shifted away from mine, just for a second, but I caught it. What aren't you telling me, Mia? Her lips pressed into a thin line. Nathan, it's not like that. Then what is it? She hesitated, and that hesitation was worse than any answer. Finally, she said, that night, when I told you we had to leave, it wasn't just because of the wedding itself. I saw someone there. Someone I thought I'd never see again. Who? She swallowed hard. Evan Mercer. The name meant nothing to me. I waited. He's complicated, she said. Years ago, before I met you, he was part of my life in ways I wish he hadn't been. He's dangerous, Nathan. The kind of dangerous that doesn't disappear just because you walk away. And I thought he was gone. But he was at that wedding. Watching us. The room seemed to close in around me. And you didn't think to tell me this before? I was trying to protect you, she said, her voice tight. The less you knew, the safer you were. I stood, pacing the room. Mia, we're past safe. Someone is sending us photographs, videos, cryptic messages. This isn't over. She moved toward me, reaching for my hand, but I stepped back. My mind was already shifting into the same mode I'd used against Caleb, gathering intel, mapping strategies. But this was different. Caleb had been predictable. This wasn't a family feud anymore, this was someone operating in the dark, someone who knew how to get close without being seen. The next week confirmed it. My phone began to buzz with unknown numbers, always hanging up after one ring. An envelope slid under my apartment door while I was in the shower, containing a single playing card, the King of Spades, with a date written on it. 3 days from now. Mia saw it and went pale. It's him, she said. What does it mean? She shook her head. It's a message. The King of Spades, it's his signature. And the date is when he'll make his move. His move for what? Her eyes met mine, and for the first time since I'd known her, I saw fear that went deeper than anger or defiance. For you. The date is tomorrow now. The card sits on my desk, the photograph and flash drive beside it. I don't know what's coming. I don't know what I missed at that wedding, but I know it's connected to both Caleb and Evan Mercer in ways I haven't yet seen. And when the clock strikes midnight, I have a feeling I'll find out exactly what it is. But something tells me I won't like the answer. I didn't sleep that night. My mind replayed every betrayal, every smirk on Darren's face when he thought he'd beaten me. But this time, the power wasn't in his hands, it was in mine. By dawn, I was at my desk, watching the documents load onto the encrypted drive. Every folder was a nail in his corporate coffin, forged invoices, offshore accounts, falsified audits. Things that could bury him for good. I could have gone straight to the authorities, but part of me wanted him to know it was me. That the man he'd tried to crush had turned into the executioner. When I arrived at the office, Darren was already in the conference room, surrounded by his usual crowd of sycophants. He looked up, a fake smile plastered on his face. Nathan, he said, voice dripping with false warmth. I wasn't expecting you today. I placed a sleek black envelope on the table. You'll want to open that. Alone. He hesitated, then waved everyone out. The door shut with a soft click. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled out the contents, a printed summary of the files, every fraudulent transaction neatly itemized. What the hell is this? He demanded, his voice cracking. It's the end of your career, I said calmly. And the start of my freedom. You think you can blackmail me? I don't need to. By the time you're done reading that list, 3 federal agencies will already have the same package. This, I tapped the papers, is just a courtesy. For the first time since I'd known him, Darren's face lost all color. He leaned back, exhaling sharply, the weight of reality settling on him. You'll go down with me, he tried to spit out. No, I said, smiling. I was smart enough to keep my hands clean. You can't drag me anywhere. He stared at me for a long moment, then muttered, What do you want? I stepped toward the door, hand on the knob. Nothing. Just to see the look on your face when you realize you lost. 2 weeks later, Darren was gone, fired, indicted, and stripped of everything. The company made me an offer to return, but I declined. I wasn't going back to the place that had tried to bury me alive. Instead, I took my severance, my freedom, and the knowledge that I'd finally closed that chapter. I started my own consulting firm, small at first, but honest. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was fighting shadows. Sometimes revenge isn't about rage or destruction. Sometimes it's about walking away, knowing you've outsmarted the very person who thought they owned you. And that's exactly what I did.